Hey there! Today, we will embark on a journey back through time to explore some of the most astonishing archaeological discoveries ever recorded. There have been pieces of evidence that once left the entire scientific community in awe, from legends of two-headed giants in the remote land of Patagonia to artifacts that seem to exist only in myth. Each discovery raises a host of new questions, forcing us to rethink what we thought we knew for sure about human history. Number 1. The Society of the Nine Unknown Men. In the history of humanity, there have always existed secrets that, even after thousands of years, no one has been able to fully unravel, and the Society of the Nine Unknown Men is one of them. Established more than 2,000 years ago by Emperor Ashoka, this secret society is believed to have possessed and protected the most important ancient knowledge of mankind. According to ancient records and legends, after enduring a bloody war with a neighboring kingdom, Ashoka came to truly understand the pain and destruction caused by war. He decided to abandon violence and pursue a path of peace. To prevent valuable knowledge from falling into the hands of evil people, Ashoka chose the 9 most talented scholars of his time and gave them the important responsibility of preserving this knowledge in absolute secrecy. The Society of the Nine Unknown Men operated completely in the shadows and never revealed the identities of its members to the outside world. Each member of the society was assigned to guard one specific field of knowledge, including physics, medicine, alchemy, astronomy, communication, biology, and even mysterious fields such as gravity control or the origins of the universe. When a member died or was unable to continue the mission, a new person would be chosen as a replacement to ensure that the society always maintained exactly 9 members. The story of this secret society became even more intriguing and mysterious when, in 1923, the famous writer Talbot Mundy published a book called The Nine Unknown Men, introducing the existence of this organization to the Western world. Although many people believe this is merely a product of imagination, there are also quite a few who think that Mundy actually gained access to secret information about this society through hidden sources in the East. Even to this day, the secret of the 9 unknown men has never been fully revealed. No one knows for sure whether they still exist and operate somewhere in the world we live in, yet it is this very ambiguity that creates the irresistible attraction of the story about the mysterious society of the 9 unknown men. Number 2. The Death Mask of Tutankhamun. Throughout the entire history of archaeology, there have been few artifacts that have left as powerful an impression as the death mask of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. Many people believe that this is one of the most beautiful and also the most enigmatic objects ever discovered in any Egyptian excavation. The ancient Egyptians always had an especially profound belief about death. They did not view death as an end, but instead as the beginning of a new journey into the next world. From the practice of mummification to the rituals for preparing for the afterlife, Egyptian civilization created a whole system of complex and highly symbolic ceremonies. Within that system, the death mask of Tutankhamun emerged as a sacred object that played a very special role. According to the beliefs of the ancient Egyptians, this mask was crafted with delicate and precise features to imitate the real face of the king, and then placed over the face of the mummy as it was put in the coffin. They believed that the mask would guide the soul of the deceased back to its resting place and help the soul recognize its own body when returning from the long journey in the afterlife. If the mummy was ever destroyed or lost, the mask itself would become a safe refuge for the soul. One particularly remarkable aspect of this mask lies in the way the ancient Egyptians created an idealized image for the king. It was the most perfect and beautiful face that the artisans could imagine, and then the entire mask was covered in pure gold to symbolize eternal endurance. In the case of Tutankhamun, this mask has truly survived through thousands of years, and even today, it still rests in a place of honor at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. Whenever people look at the death mask of Tutankhamun, they do not just see the traces of a distant era, but they can also sense the mystery, the deep faith, and the haunting obsession with death that belonged to the ancient Egyptians. Number 3. The Old Egyptian Chronicle, Ancient Egyptian Annals. In the minds of most people, when it comes to ancient Egypt, this land is usually associated with the famous pharaohs and their magnificent pyramids. But there is another story, once mentioned by ancient scholars, that has been almost completely overlooked by mainstream history, and if true, it could fundamentally change the way we view the origins of Egyptian civilization. This story begins with a mysterious document known as the Old Egyptian Chronicle, or the Ancient Egyptian Annals. The original manuscript of this document no longer exists, but in the 9th century, a scholar named George Syncellus happened to discover a copy that recorded its most important details. He devoted many years to studying it, and ultimately compiled what remained in a book called the Book of Sothis. This book is not an ordinary chronicle because what it describes goes far beyond the boundaries of modern knowledge about Egyptian history. According to the Old Egyptian Chronicle, Egypt once had 30 consecutive dynasties, totaling 113 generations of kings, with a combined history spanning 36,525 years. This is an astonishing number that no modern scholar can confirm, and no other civilization is believed to have lasted for such a long period. Yet what is truly remarkable is not just this number, but the origins of the first rulers as described in the document. In this record, the first dynasty is called the Orites, and the rulers of Egypt at that time were not humans, but sun gods. Chief among them was the god Helios, who is said to have ruled Egypt for 30,000 years. What followed Helios's reign was an era of his descendants, beings of divine origin who ruled for nearly 4,000 more years. After that came the age of the demigods, 8 of whom ascended the throne and reigned together for 217 years. Then, power was handed down to a group called the Mesites. These were the final descendants of the demigods, who held the throne for 443 years. Ultimately, power fell into the hands of the pharaohs that modern history often refers to. In this list, the final dynasty is named Tanit, which many scholars believe may be linked to the ancient city of Tanis in the Nile Delta, though to this day, no one can say for certain. The emergence of the Old Egyptian Chronicle has changed the way people think about Egyptian history, because it is not just a chronicle but also a depiction of the transition from mythology to reality. Within it, immortal gods and divine beings successively hand power down to real human kings, until at some point, history becomes more familiar to us through official archaeological records. This also calls to mind another famous document, the Sumerian king list, in which the first kings are also described as having lifespans of thousands of years before more reasonable, mortal kings began to appear. All of these records raise a profound question that, to this day, no one has been able to answer with certainty. Did ancient Egypt really experience an era when gods walked the earth? Or are the extraordinary numbers in the annals merely products of imagination? Did the Egyptians want to believe that their origins lay with immortal gods to affirm the sacred status of their land, or were they truly preserving an ancient memory that modern humanity has since forgotten? The Old Egyptian Chronicle remains a mysterious fragment of history, a place where the boundary between reality and legend becomes blurred. That is why, no matter how much time passes, stories like this continue to fascinate those who are drawn to the mysteries of history. Number 4. The inventions of the ancient Greeks. When people talk about the ancient Greeks, many immediately think of great legacies like the world's first democracy, the Olympic Games, legendary philosophers, and plays that have endured through the centuries. The Greeks also created a rich treasury of mythology and left a deep influence that can still be felt today. However, alongside their achievements in philosophy, art, and culture, the Greeks were also famous for being ahead of their time in technology and engineering. Among their many inventions, there were creations that might seem simple at first glance, but ended up changing the course of human history. One such invention is the odometer, a device for measuring distance. Today, every car is equipped with a small gauge to record how many miles it has traveled, but few realize that the principle behind it was first developed by a Greek inventor thousands of years ago. When building their roads, the Greeks needed a precise way to measure the length of each new route, so they devised a large wheel mounted on a cart. As the cart moved along the road, the turning of the wheel would record exactly how much distance they had constructed. This invention was later adopted by the Romans, who used it widely in building their vast network of roads. But the Greeks did not stop there. They went even further in their study of time. Before the Greek era, most civilizations only used sundials to estimate the hours of the day. But in Greece, scientists invented the water clock known as the clepsydra. This was a device that used a steady flow of water passing through a system of gears to record each minute and hour far more accurately than a sundial. Water clocks were used not only in daily life but also for some very unique purposes. In ancient Athens, the clepsydra was placed in brothels to limit the time of each customer, making sure that everyone had a fair share. In addition, water clocks were used in courtrooms to control the length of arguments and prevent trials from dragging on unnecessarily. Later on, a famous physician in Greece even used the clepsydra to measure his patients' heart rates, marking some of the first uses of technology in medicine. Inventions like the odometer and the clepsydra prove that the ancient Greeks were not only masters of philosophy and art, but also deeply practical thinkers, always aiming to improve human life with innovations that were truly ahead of their time. Jesus, an extraterrestrial? For centuries, the story of Jesus has remained a subject both sacred and filled with countless mysteries. For billions of people around the world, the image of a savior with mythic qualities has become the very foundation of their faith. However, alongside these familiar legends, there have always existed controversial theories about the true origins of this remarkable figure. There was a time when the media was abuzz with reports about an archaeological discovery at Rosslyn Chapel, a site long associated with numerous legends surrounding the Knights Templar. According to widely circulated articles, a team of researchers had found there the true cross, believed to be the very cross upon which Jesus was crucified. Not stopping there, the scientists even claimed that they had obtained a blood sample remaining on the wood of the cross and had begun DNA analysis in hopes of finding answers to the lingering mysteries of Christian history. The results of this DNA analysis quickly became one of the most hotly debated topics among researchers. Instead of discovering the ordinary DNA structure found in modern humans, the scientists announced that they had identified an entirely different structure with 3 helical strands, instead of the 2 everyone is familiar with. This DNA belonged to a species dubbed Homo superioris, said to possess supernatural abilities far beyond those of ordinary humans, from the power to heal wounds rapidly to phenomena like telepathy, and even the ability to manipulate the basic laws of physics. It was from here that a bold hypothesis emerged. Some suggested that Jesus may not have been an ordinary human being, but rather a member of a superhuman species that once lived hidden among us on Earth. They argued that the miracles Jesus performed could have arisen from the natural abilities of this species. According to this theory, after being crucified, Jesus did not die as an ordinary person would, but instead used his powers to vanish from the world. However, it is important to emphasize that all of the above stories and conclusions remain completely unproven by any credible scientific evidence to this day. The information about 3-stranded DNA, the existence of Homo superioris, or the discovery of the true cross at Rosslyn Chapel all originate from unverified sources and are most often spread on forums or websites dedicated to supernatural theories. For most scientists and scholars of religious history, such theories remain simply stories shrouded in mystery. The questions about the true identity of Jesus, the real meaning of his miracles, and the relationship between faith and modern science will no doubt continue to be subjects of endless debate. Number 6. The Vampire Grave at Papericon, Bulgaria. In the southern mountain region of Bulgaria, archaeologists made a discovery that is both chilling and deeply intriguing: the so-called Vampire Grave at the Papericon archaeological site. This is not only a famous historical location, but also a place filled with mysteries that have remained unsolved for thousands of years. During the excavation, experts uncovered the remains of a young man with some very unique and disturbing signs. His body had been pierced by a long iron blade driven straight through his chest, precisely through the heart. Beyond that, his left leg had been cut into 3 parts and neatly arranged next to his body. These details make it clear that this was not an ordinary murder, but rather a ritual designed to prevent the soul of the dead from returning to the world of the living in the form of a vampire. According to renowned archaeologist Professor Nikolai Ovcharov, this ritual stemmed from the deep-rooted beliefs and intense fears of medieval people when it came to vampires. In Europe, and especially in the Balkans, vampire legends were not just stories used to frighten children. Instead, they became an integral part of daily life and religious practice. People believed that when someone died under unusual circumstances, such as from a mysterious illness or a strange accident, they could very well return as a vampire later on. To protect the community from the threat of being drained of blood or haunted by supernatural forces, bizarre rituals had to be performed, and piercing the heart with a blade or severing the legs of the dead were just some of these practices. What is especially remarkable at Perperikon is that archaeologists also found other unusual graves, each bearing traces of rituals against evil spirits. In one grave, a woman and a child were buried in a pose resembling the image of the Virgin Mary and the infant Jesus, possibly as a way of seeking divine protection. In many places, people even resorted to burying the dead in large jars, hoping that their souls would not be able to escape. Today, these ancient rituals may sound bizarre or even gruesome, but for the people of that era, it was the only way they knew to ward off the fear of things they simply could not understand with reason. And to this day, the vampire grave at Perperikon still stands as a vivid testament to the intersection of faith, fear, and the unsolved mysteries of human history. Number 7. The world's oldest mummy. When people think of mummies, most immediately picture the preserved bodies of ancient Egyptians. For generations, Egypt has been seen as the cradle of the art of mummification. However, a recent archaeological discovery has astonished both experts and history enthusiasts alike, forcing a reconsideration of this long-held belief. Scientists have just confirmed that the world's oldest mummy is not found in Egypt, but in the Sado Valley of Portugal. The skeletal remains discovered here have been dated to be around 8,000 years old, far surpassing the famous Chinchorro mummies of Chile, which were previously hailed by experts as the world's oldest. The Chinchorro mummies, dating back up to 7,000 years, once stood as the symbol of advanced and sophisticated prehistoric mummification techniques in South America. The mummification process practiced by ancient people in the Sado Valley was very different from the Egyptian style. The ancients here performed a ritual that was both remarkably strange and intricate. When a member of the community died, the body would be placed in a fetal position, legs bent close to the chest, arms wrapped around the knees, and the entire body tightly bound with multiple loops of rope. Throughout the period when the body began to dry and decompose, family or community members would continually tighten the ropes to keep the body as compact as possible. After many days, or even weeks, the corpse would eventually shrink into a small, dry bundle of bones, resembling a ball. This method not only preserved the skeleton, but even retained some soft tissue, allowing the remains to survive almost intact for thousands of years beneath the earth. The discovery of the mummies in Sado has raised a host of significant questions for modern archaeology. Did this mummification technique arise independently in Portugal, or could it have spread along the Mediterranean coast? Was there once a wave of cultural exchange or prehistoric migration between Europe and Africa that we have never known about? To this day, no one can provide definite answers to these questions. Yet, the finding of the world's oldest mummies in Sado does more than open a new chapter in the study of human history. It also compels us to reconsider our ingrained assumptions about the development and spread of ancient burial customs. The story of the Sado mummies stands as evidence that the prehistoric world still holds countless unanswered mysteries, and that every new discovery can change the way we understand the very origins of our own species. Number 8. Vimana aircraft in ancient Indian literature. In the history of ancient India, there are few symbols as intriguing and controversial as the Vimana. These are the legendary flying machines that appear in carvings on the walls of Hindu temples. When exploring ancient texts like the Mahabharata or the Ramayana, it is easy to find descriptions of aerial vehicles, strange chariots used by the gods to travel across the heavens, or to participate in epic battles beyond the imagination of ordinary people. In these ancient records, the Vimana is often described as a flying chariot with the ability to travel swiftly through the layers of the sky. Some texts depict the Vimana as a palace floating in the air, fully equipped with rooms like a miniature castle. Certain carvings in Hindu temples show the Vimana as a chariot pulled by divine horses, dashing through the clouds at incredible speed. While the depictions may differ, what they all have in common is that the Vimana is always a vehicle of the gods, representing power, might, and a sense of wonder that surpassed human understanding at that time. Many scholars and researchers believe that the legends of the Vimana reflect the ancient Indian belief in the existence of supernatural technology. Some theories suggest that the descriptions of the Vimana may have come from real experiences, moments when ancient people witnessed unexplained phenomena, such as unidentified flying objects appearing in the sky. These experiences were woven into legendary tales, passed down from generation to generation. Yet to this day, archaeologists have not found any physical evidence for the real existence of Vimana aircraft. There are no mechanical models, no fragments of engines, and no technical documents ever discovered at ancient Indian archaeological sites. All descriptions of Vimana exist only as legend or lines of mythical text. Even so, the appeal of this legend has not diminished with time. It continues to inspire not only researchers but also those who believe that ancient people might have come into contact with extraterrestrial technology, or perhaps with another civilization that once existed in the distant past. Today, whenever people stand before the stone walls carved with images of Vimana at ancient Hindu temples, the same question always arises. Could it be that these stories of flying chariots are simply the product of imagination, or do they truly originate from a mysterious experience that people in ancient times could not explain? Number 9. Prehistoric giants in China. In the ongoing search for the origins and diversity of humankind, science has more than once accidentally opened doors to the past, where all of our familiar concepts about human history seem to be challenged to the core. One of the most astonishing discoveries in recent years comes from northern China, where archaeologists unearthed giant fossils named Homo longi, also known by another name, the Dragon Man. This fossil quickly drew the attention of the global scientific community, not only because of its remarkable age, but also due to its extraordinary characteristics. Researchers determined that the skull of Homo longi has a cranial capacity of up to 109 cubic inches, much larger than that of modern humans and far exceeding even the famously robust Neanderthals. When placed next to the average Homo sapiens skull, the difference is unmistakable. This raises profound questions about the cognitive abilities, physical strength, and lifestyle of these giant humans who once existed on Asian soil. The discovery of Homo longi does not simply add a new link to the chain of human evolution, but also suggests the possibility that multiple independent evolutionary branches may have coexisted in the past. According to paleontologists, these prehistoric giants may have lived between 200,000 and 300,000 years ago, during a period when the harsh climate of the Ice Age posed serious survival challenges for any species. The question arises, did Homo longi ever coexist with the ancestors of modern humans? Many researchers believe it is entirely possible that some of Homo longi's physical or genetic traits have persisted in today's human populations. What is noteworthy is that these findings go beyond the boundaries of science, breathing new life into ancient legends that have existed for thousands of years in human culture. For a long time, both Eastern and Western civilizations have passed down stories of giants who once appeared and then vanished from the world of men. In Western ancient texts, these gigantic beings are often called Nephilim, who were said to have ruled the earth before the Great Flood. Although the answers remain elusive, the discovery of Homo longi has truly blurred the line between legend and reality more than ever before. Number 10. A bloody wedding in real life. The Glencoe Massacre. The story begins when the Campbell clan, a powerful family from the Scottish Highlands, came seeking shelter at the home of the MacDonald clan in the Glencoe Valley. Although the MacDonalds were not particularly close to the royal family, they still opened their doors to these unfamiliar guests, upholding their age-old tradition of hospitality. For nearly 2 weeks, the Campbells and their soldiers were well fed and warmly welcomed. But then, on a cold winter night, the 13th of February, 1692, tragedy struck. While everyone was still asleep, the guests suddenly turned into murderers. The Campbells and their men drew their weapons and killed at least 38 MacDonald men on the spot. Women and children, terrified, fled into the snow-covered hills to escape, but many of them could not survive the harsh cold of the highlands. Hundreds of years later, archaeologists excavated the ancient settlement of Actreoctan, which was once a bustling village at the foot of Glencoe. Through the remains, they discovered that after the massacre, some members of the MacDonald clan had survived and eventually returned to rebuild their lives on their ancestral land. The houses, barns, and small structures still bear the traces of a community that once persisted with remarkable resilience. However, by the 19th century, the collapse of the sheep farming economy forced the last residents to leave, turning the area into the deserted landscape it is today. If you think that the Glencoe massacre was the only event of its kind in Scottish history, you may be surprised. A similar event, known as the Black Dinner, took place in 1440. At that time, two Douglas brothers, just 16 and 10 years old, were invited to a banquet with King James II. But instead of a joyful feast, they were executed right at the dining table on charges of treason. Scottish history, for that reason, is forever marked by tragic tales of betrayed trust and the heavy price paid by those who put their faith in the wrong people. Number 11. The Great Flood of U, the Great, Legend and Archaeological Truth. Among the vast trove of Eastern ancient tales, no legend is more deeply etched into the memory of the Chinese people than the story of the Great Flood during the era of Yu the Great. This is a myth that has been passed down for thousands of years, telling of a catastrophic natural disaster that nearly swept away the fledgling civilization along the banks of the Yellow River. According to legend, during the time of Emperor Yao, China faced the most devastating flood in its history. The river waters rose, submerging fields and homes, forcing thousands to flee to higher ground. Emperor Yao entrusted Gun, a high-ranking minister, with the task of controlling the waters, but every attempt failed. Gun tried to build dikes and embankments to hold back the water, but the floods kept coming, overwhelming everything humans had created. After many years of persistent but fruitless effort, Gun was punished, and his son inherited the responsibility of stopping the disaster. Unlike his father, Yu did not try to block the floodwaters, but instead chose to dig channels to divert the water into low-lying areas. In this way, he gradually brought the waters under control and redirected the course of the flood, rather than confronting it head-on. Over the course of 13 arduous years, Yu and his associates dug hundreds of channels large and small, transforming the devastating floods into stable rivers. For centuries, the story of Yu the Great remained just a legend. However, advances in modern archaeology have brought a new and convincing perspective. Geologists and archaeologists have discovered unusually thick layers of ancient silt deep beneath the Yellow River, dating back to around 1900 BCE. Geological studies indicate that, at that time, a massive earthquake caused a mountain landslide that blocked the Yellow River, forming a giant lake. After years of accumulating water, this natural dam suddenly burst, releasing an immense flood. What archaeologists have found appears to confirm parts of the tale handed down through generations. As a result, the legend of Yu controlling the flood is no longer merely a story, but has become a symbol of human determination in the face of adversity, as well as a testament to the adaptability and resilience of an ancient civilization. Number 12. The first cannabis traders in history. If anyone thinks that cannabis is a modern phenomenon, they might want to look at human history from a different perspective. Thousands of years before the Silk Road ever connected East and West, there existed another special route that few people know about, the ancient trade route for cannabis. Today, archaeologists believe that it was actually the Yamnaya people who lived on the vast steppes of what is now Russia and Ukraine who were the first to spread this plant across the Eurasian continent. Archaeological evidence shows that as far back as 11,500 years ago, traces of cannabis appeared scattered throughout both East Asia and Europe. Researchers have found pollen, plant fibers, and even burnt seeds preserved in ancient sites, proving that this plant was known to humans from a very early age. However, it was not until the Yamnaya people began to migrate and expand their territory that cannabis truly became widespread in East Asia. As these nomadic warriors carried cannabis with them on their journeys, the plant quickly spread across new lands. For ancient people, cannabis was not simply a plant used for leisure or relaxation. They knew how to make use of every benefit that cannabis could provide. From the stalks, they wove fabric and made extremely strong ropes, essential items for everyday life. The seeds were pressed for oil or used to create nutritious foods. The leaves and flowers of cannabis were used as folk remedies and, at times, became indispensable ingredients in religious rituals. Number 13. The mysterious Tartessos civilization in Spain. About 2,500 years ago, Tartessos was not only a center of power in southwestern Spain, but also a crossroads of trade. The people of Tartessos were renowned for their exceptional metallurgical skills and advanced shipbuilding techniques. Most notably, they were immensely wealthy in gold and silver resources, which quickly helped them rise to prominence as a commercial power in the ancient Mediterranean world. However, most of what we know about Tartessos comes from scattered writings of Greek and Roman authors, and even from ancient lines in the Bible, where Tartessos is referred to as Tarshish, a city once famed for its ships laden with precious gold and silver, sailing across the sea to the land of King Solomon. Many scholars have long debated whether Tartessos might actually have been the inspiration for the famous Atlantis legend recounted by Plato. Yet, while Atlantis exists only in the realm of mythology, the existence of Tartessos is supported by archaeological evidence. Archaeologists have discovered numerous sites and artifacts in the lower reaches of the Guadalquivir River, ranging from the ruins of cities buried beneath layers of silt to metallurgical workshops and a wealth of exquisite pottery. What makes Tartessos such a great mystery in the history of Spain lies not only in its remarkable development but also in its sudden disappearance. No one knows the exact cause of the fall of Tartessos. Some scholars believe that their fertile lands may have been swallowed by a catastrophic flood, wiping away all traces of a once thriving civilization. Others suspect that conflicts with powerful rivals like Carthage or sweeping geopolitical changes pushed Tartessos to the brink of extinction. There are also theories that sudden climate changes played a part in bringing an end to a glorious chapter in the history of the Iberian Peninsula. Today, although the traces of Tartessos have mostly been buried by the passage of time, the stories of this civilization continue to stir the imagination of researchers and history enthusiasts alike. Number 14. Pot burials in Egypt. For many decades now, archaeologists have repeatedly discovered a very special form of burial in ancient Egypt. Graves in which the deceased were interred inside large ceramic jars, a practice known as pot burials. This form of burial appeared thousands of years ago and still raises many unanswered questions for modern scholars. What makes these graves especially remarkable is the method of interment itself. Most of these large jars were used to bury infants or young children. In many cases, archaeologists have also found adult remains, with the bodies carefully folded to fit into the cramped space inside the pot. Usually, the small skeletons of children lie peacefully within the large clay jar, but when it comes to adults, the bones are bent in an unnatural way so that they can fit inside. For many years, experts believed that pot burials were simply the choice of poorer families who could not afford traditional coffins, so they used available jars as substitutes. However, the latest research has revealed a completely different explanation. According to new findings, placing the dead inside a jar was not merely a practical solution, but also a spiritual ritual, rich in symbolism about rebirth. Scientists today believe that the ceramic jar symbolized a mother's womb. When a soul left this world, it was returned to the mother's belly made of earth, completing a sacred cycle of life and death. The act of placing the dead inside a jar was meant to comfort the soul and make its journey to the afterlife easier. In particular, many jars have been found with their mouths deliberately broken, like the gesture of cracking an eggshell, symbolizing the soul's release. Though interpretations may differ depending on the period, it is clear that pot burials are a unique cultural practice, expressing a deep connection between people and the cycle of reincarnation. Today, whenever archaeologists uncover another burial jar like this, they not only open a new page on ancient customs, but also gain a deeper appreciation for the profound philosophy of life held by the ancient Egyptians. Number 15. The Black Sea Deluge, where fact and legend intertwine. Human history has recorded many times when natural disasters possessed the power to alter entire civilizations. One of the most mysterious stories is the hypothesis of the Black Sea Deluge, a catastrophe believed to have submerged not only the fertile lands surrounding the Black Sea, but perhaps also planted the seeds for immortal legends in humanity's memory. In 1997, scientist William Ryan and his colleagues published a hypothesis that sent shockwaves through the world of ancient studies. According to their theory, The present-day Black Sea was once a vast freshwater lake where, thousands of years ago, ancient peoples built villages, farmed, and developed a civilization. But everything changed irreversibly when the waters of the Mediterranean suddenly surged through the Bosphorus and poured into this lake. The torrent of salt water swept in, inundating everything humans had built and transforming the freshwater lake into the wide Black Sea we know today. Researchers estimate that this event occurred around 7,600 years ago, with a force powerful enough to wash away entire lakeside settlements. In an instant, villages, farmlands, and even early civilizations sank beneath the waves, leaving behind a legacy for future generations to discover only much later. What makes the Black Sea flood hypothesis particularly remarkable is not only the scale and destructive power of the event, but also its uncanny resemblance to the great flood legends found in the Bible and in ancient traditions across many cultures. Could it be that the memory of the Black Sea disaster became the inspiration for the story of Noah? Modern archaeological discoveries have also added important evidence to this hypothesis. When scientists surveyed the bottom of the Black Sea, they discovered traces of man-made structures, ruins of houses buried as deep as 100 meters beneath the surface. These findings indicate that there was once vibrant life on the shores of this immense freshwater lake before the modern Black Sea emerged and concealed it all. Today, although there is still much debate about the true scale and impact of the Black Sea deluge, this hypothesis nonetheless offers us an entirely new perspective on ancient history. It is not just a reminder of the unpredictable power of nature, it also raises questions within us about the fragility of civilizations and about how collective memory can be transformed into legend and passed down through countless generations. Number 16. Ancient plastic surgery in India. When people think of cosmetic surgery, most assume it is a modern achievement of medical science. However, few realize that techniques of plastic surgery actually appeared thousands of years ago in ancient India, closely tied to the name of Sushruta, the father of plastic surgery. Sushruta lived in the 6th century BCE, during a period when Indian civilization was making significant advances in both medicine and other scientific fields. Sushruta was the author of one of the world's oldest medical texts, the Sushruta Samhita. In this work, he described in detail more than 1,100 different diseases, provided guidance on the use of hundreds of medicinal plants, and recorded meticulous instructions for many surgical procedures. Sushruta is especially well known for giving the first recorded descriptions of nasal reconstruction surgery, also called rhinoplasty. This became the foundation for modern cosmetic surgery techniques. In ancient India, having one's nose cut off was a severe punishment given to those convicted of theft or adultery. To restore the function and appearance of the face for those who had suffered this fate, Sushruta developed a method that involved taking a thick flap of skin from the forehead and using it to reconstruct the patient's nose. This approach not only helped restore physical appearance but also gave these individuals back their confidence and a chance to reintegrate into society. Despite the very limited medical conditions of the time, the ability to perform reconstructive surgeries demonstrated that ancient Indian medicine possessed knowledge and skills far ahead of its era. Thanks to the records and techniques left behind by Sushruta, humanity took a great leap forward in the development of medicine and healthcare, laying the groundwork for the remarkable progress seen in cosmetic and reconstructive surgery today. Number 17. Floods and the transformation of the Sahara. When nature and humanity redraw Africa's map, perhaps very few of us can imagine that the Sahara was once a land of abundance and vitality. Around 11,000 years ago, the Sahara was a place where rivers converged, crystal-clear lakes shimmered, dense forests thrived, and even vast grasslands provided habitat for migrating animals and ancient human communities who pioneered the first cultures. It was a landscape entirely at odds with what we see today. The transformation of the Sahara was not solely the result of natural climate changes, but also bore the profound imprint of human activity. Scholar David Wright, an environmental archaeology expert, has put forth a notable hypothesis about why this region became so arid. According to him, the introduction of animal husbandry, especially when ancient people brought goats into the Sahara, set off a chain reaction that altered the ecosystem. Herds of goats devoured the low-lying vegetation, reducing the amount of moisture released from the ground and leading to a decline in rainfall. As the plant cover disappeared, the land lost its ability to retain moisture, and desertification accelerated rapidly, bringing about the collapse of the human communities that had once thrived there. Alongside these scientific explanations, the Sahara is also the cradle of numerous legends and mysterious theories, the most prominent of which is the story of Atlantis. Some researchers have boldly linked the location of the Eye of the Sahara, a giant geological formation in the heart of Mauritania, with the remains of Atlantis. According to the Atlantis-Sahara theory, this great city once flourished here before being swept away by a cataclysmic flood. However, mainstream scientists continue to firmly reject this hypothesis. In their view, the Eye of the Sahara is merely a natural geological phenomenon formed over millions of years by changes in the Earth's crust, with no archaeological evidence or material remains to suggest that it was ever the center of a magnificent civilization. Yet, despite the controversy, the idea of an Atlantis buried beneath the golden sands of the Sahara remains especially captivating to those who are fascinated by historical mysteries and who are ever eager to explore the true limits of human imagination and knowledge. Number 18. Greek philosophers and the concept of extraterrestrials. Many people assume that ideas about an infinite universe or the existence of extraterrestrial life only emerged in modern times, as science and space technology have rapidly advanced. In reality, however, these bold thoughts first appeared thousands of years ago, originating with the ancient Greek philosophers. Among them, names like Anaxagoras, Epicurus, and Lucretius stand out for their theories about a vast, limitless universe and the possible existence of other worlds beyond Earth. Anaxagoras was one of the first philosophers to suggest that the universe did not consist of only the Earth, but could also contain other celestial bodies and life forms existing far beyond what human eyes could see. Following in his footsteps, Epicurus developed the idea of an infinite universe, where there was not just one world but countless others, each potentially harboring life, perhaps even humans or beings entirely different from us. The Roman philosopher Lucretius agreed with this perspective, believing that the universe held many planets, each home to different species, with a variety of shapes and customs. These pioneering ideas laid the groundwork for modern concepts of the multiverse and the possibility of extraterrestrial life. Although there was no scientific evidence available at the time, Greek philosophers were courageous enough to imagine a universe so vast that it far surpassed human understanding. Their ideas have endured through the ages and have deeply influenced modern scientists, philosophers, and even science fiction writers. It can be said that as far back as ancient Greece, people were already asking profound questions about their place in the universe and about the possible existence of civilizations beyond Earth. This shows that humanity's spirit of curiosity and desire to explore has never had any boundaries. Number 19. The Giants of Nevada. Long before Europeans ever set foot in the land that is now Nevada, the native inhabitants here had already been passing down a mysterious legend about the existence of a race of giants with a frightening appearance and an unusually aggressive nature. The Paiute tribe, who have lived for centuries in this vast desert region, always warned their descendants to be extremely cautious of the beings they called the Siteka, a race of giants with bright red hair and a nature so fierce it was terrifying. According to these ancient stories, the Siteka were not simply giants, but they also had a gruesome habit of hunting and eating humans. Because of this, for many generations, there were constant and extremely fierce battles between the Paiute and these giants. The ongoing conflicts eventually led the Paiute to decide on a major battle to end the brutality of the Siteka. The story goes that Paiute warriors forced the Siteka giants deep into a large cave near the present-day town of Lovelock. To make sure that not a single one of them could escape, the Paiute stacked dry wood and kindling at the entrance to the cave and set it on fire, shooting flaming arrows to ignite the pile, so that all of the giants inside either burned to death or suffocated and could not escape. Hundreds of years later, the cave where the Siteka giants met their end was sealed by a major earthquake. However, in 1920, workers from the Sunset Mining Company, while mining bat guano in a cave near Lovelock, accidentally discovered some remarkable artifacts. They found 2 giant human skeletons, each measuring more than 2.4 meters in height, a compelling piece of evidence for the stories that the Paiute had recounted for centuries. But it was at the very moment when people were hoping for more research to either prove or completely disprove this mysterious legend that the 2 skeletons suddenly disappeared under mysterious circumstances. To this day, no one knows exactly what happened to those giant skeletons, and this event has only added to the mystery of the legend of the Sitakar giants. Were the stories told by the Paiute just folklore, or did giants really once walk this land? Number 20. The ancient refrigerator, Yakhchal, of Persia. Around 2,400 years ago, in the land of ancient Persia, people invented an extremely clever device to cope with the intense summer heat of the desert. This was the ancient refrigerator, known as the Yakhchal. The word Yakhchal in Persian means ice pit, and it is one of the oldest refrigeration systems ever known to humanity. A Yakhchal is a structure made of clay and brick, shaped like a giant dome rising above the dry desert landscape. Each Yakhchal could reach up to 60 feet in height, with its domed top protruding above ground and a deep, spacious chamber below, used for storing ice and food. The construction techniques for these ancient refrigerators relied on a combination of natural insulating materials and an ingenious ventilation system. The thick walls, made from a mixture of clay, ash, egg whites, goat hair, and coconut fibers, were designed to keep the outside heat at bay and maintain a low temperature inside. In winter, the Persians would cut large blocks of ice from nearby rivers and streams and store them inside the Yakhchal. Thanks to its special structure and perfect insulation, the ice could be kept cold throughout the summer, allowing people to cool their drinks, preserve food, or even create cold desserts for the nobility. But the Yakhchal was more than just a cold storage facility. It stands as a testament to the ingenuity and scientific skill of ancient people in adapting to harsh environments. Long before electricity, air conditioning, or modern refrigerators, our ancestors knew how to harness nature and apply engineering techniques to meet their everyday needs. Today, some ancient Yakhchals still exist in Iran, standing as enduring symbols of human intelligence and creativity throughout history. These structures do more than tell the story of the past, they inspire future generations with the timeless value of human innovation. Number 21. The Atlantis coin. Among the countless mysteries that human history has yet to solve, the story of the legendary city of Atlantis has always held a special place, capturing the attention of generations of researchers and archaeologists around the world. However, despite many theories and numerous searches, the true trace of this city has never been found. But that may be about to change, thanks to a strange ancient coin, which appeared more than 2 millennia ago, and contains priceless information about the actual location of Atlantis. The person who laid the foundation for this discovery is Professor Mark McMenamin, a renowned geologist known for his groundbreaking research in the search for ancient traces. During a survey, he accidentally discovered an ancient coin from the Carthaginian civilization dating back about 2,400 years, with one side depicting a strange map believed to contain information about the land of legendary Atlantis. Notably, this map clearly shows the Mediterranean Sea, along with a landmass previously unknown, situated directly opposite the Strait of Gibraltar, which the ancient Greeks called the Pillars of Hercules. According to records left by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, Atlantis was once an extremely advanced, wealthy, and powerful civilization located just beyond the Strait of Gibraltar, but later was engulfed by a terrible catastrophe and disappeared forever beneath the ocean. For that reason, this Carthaginian coin could be the crucial evidence proving that Atlantis once existed, not just in Plato's imagination, but also in the awareness of other ancient peoples who lived during that era. Another figure connected to this discovery is Christos, who, together with Professor McMenamin, carefully studied and analyzed every detail on the coin. Although Christos's full surname remains unverified, his contribution to this research is undeniable. Christos asserted that the image engraved on the ancient Carthaginian coin matched in a remarkable way with Plato's description of Atlantis, and that this could be a vital key to pinpointing exactly where this city once existed. While this finding still requires further study from the scientific community, it is clear that the ancient Carthaginian coin has opened up new hope in the search for the legendary city of Atlantis. Who knows? In the not-so-distant future, what seemed to exist only in myth and legend may officially be confirmed as truth, completely changing the way we understand history and ancient civilizations. Number 22. Glastonbury Tor and the Legend of King Arthur. Nestled in the peaceful Somerset countryside of England, Glastonbury Tor stands not only as a striking hill amid rolling fields, but also as a place forever linked to one of Western history's most enduring legends, the story of King Arthur. Local residents, along with many researchers, believe that Glastonbury Tor is the final resting place of King Arthur himself. Yet, to this day, no definitive evidence has ever been found to prove that Arthur truly existed as a historical figure or that he was buried here. Decades of excavations have yielded more questions than answers. But the legend continues to live on in the hearts and minds of the English people. Glastonbury Tor is not only associated with Arthur. This hill carries with it a long and ancient history stretching back thousands of years. Archaeologists have discovered traces of prehistoric communities here, with stone tools dating to the Neolithic era. In Roman times, Glastonbury Tor maintained its importance, as evidenced by the many artifacts unearthed beneath its surface. During the Middle Ages, the site became even more prominent with the construction of St. Michael's Tower atop the summit. From the 12th century onward, the hill's aura of mystery only grew with the rumor that monks had unearthed the coffins of King Arthur and Queen Guinevere, then held an elaborate funeral in front of a crowd of witnesses. However, most modern historians believe this story may have been little more than a clever strategy to attract pilgrims and enhance the region's fame. Even if historical fact cannot fill the gaps left by legend, Glastonbury Tor remains a powerful symbol of the intersection between history and faith. At the foot of this hill, generations of Britons and visitors from around the world still search for answers to the enduring mystery of King Arthur. Number 23. The Tomb of Jesus. One of humanity's greatest mysteries, spanning thousands of years, centers on a small site located in the heart of the ancient city of Jerusalem. This is believed to be the place where Jesus was buried after his crucifixion, a centuries-old tomb lying deep beneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the most sacred site in the Christian world. For the past 2 millennia, this tomb has become the most important and revered pilgrimage destination for millions of believers around the globe, but it has also remained at the center of countless debates and doubts. Many scientists and historians have continuously questioned the authenticity of this site, wondering whether it truly was the final resting place of Jesus, or if it is simply an ancient tradition built on faith. Recent scientific surveys have sparked new hope for a definitive answer to that question. A team of researchers from the National Technical University of Athens used the most advanced technology to thoroughly examine and analyze the ancient tomb beneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Initial studies showed that the structure of this limestone tomb is at least 1,700 years old, dating back to the 4th century, a period that matches the time when Roman Emperor Constantine built this place as a symbol to commemorate the suffering and resurrection of Jesus. Precisely dating the tomb is an important step, bringing us closer to confirming its connection with Jesus. However, even when the age of the tomb is verified, the greatest question still remains. Is this truly the place where Jesus was laid to rest after his crucifixion, and where he was resurrected as recorded in the Bible? Although researchers have yet to provide a final answer, the ancient tomb in Jerusalem remains a powerful spiritual symbol, closely tied to the faith of millions. Whether or not an official answer is ever given, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and the tomb beneath it will always be a sacred place, a meeting point between history, belief, and the eternal mysteries that humanity has always longed to unravel. Number 24. The Three Witches of Bochnia, Dark Magic in Poland. Many people may be surprised to learn that Poland, too, endured a dark era lasting for centuries, an age when thousands were accused and executed on suspicion of witchcraft. One of the most haunting stories from this period is the execution of 3 women in the town of Bochnia in 1679. According to historical records, the 3 women were accused of carrying out brutal witchcraft rituals. The charges included drinking the blood of infants and using the bodies of babies as talismans for sinister purposes. These accusations were so severe that they sent shockwaves through the entire community. When brought to trial, the witches were given no chance to defend themselves. Under the pressure of torture and the weight of the era's superstitions, they were sentenced to be burned alive in the central market square of Bachnia. Recently, archaeologists excavating the old market square of Bachnia uncovered 2 charred human skeletons burned by intense heat. These remains are believed to belong to 2 of the 3 women executed so long ago. The discovery of these bones not only offers tangible proof of an event that has become part of local legend, but also serves as a poignant reminder of a painful chapter in history. The tragedy at Bachnia was not an isolated incident. Witch hunts in Poland continued into the 18th century, much longer than in most other European countries. During this period, between 3,000 and 4,000 people were sentenced to death on charges connected to dark magic. Many of these victims were simply caught in the crossfire or exploited to settle personal and communal disputes. Today, as scientists search for the traces of Poland's executed witches, they are not only seeking historical truth, they are also reminding us of the power of collective fear and the heartbreaking consequences it can bring to any society. Number 25. Ancient female hunters. For a long time, researchers believed that hunting was a task reserved only for men, while women mainly took on gathering and childcare. But a surprising discovery in the remote Andes Mountains has completely changed this perception, revealing that ancient women also carried spears and hunted across rugged lands more than 9,000 years ago. Archaeologists unearthed a prehistoric grave deep in the high mountains of the Andes in South America. When they carefully analyzed the remains inside the grave, they were astonished to find that these were the bones of a woman, buried alongside hunting weapons typically associated with men, such as stone-tipped spears, knives, and tools for crafting hunting equipment. This clearly proved that this woman had truly been a hunter, holding a role just as important as her male counterparts. This discovery has forced the field of archaeology to reconsider the role of women in ancient societies, especially in hunter-gatherer communities. Further studies have also shown that this was not an isolated case. Many similar graves have been found across South America, indicating that women's participation in prehistoric hunting was actually quite common, rather than rare as previously believed. These ancient Andean women were not simply helpers or companions to male hunters, they were skilled hunters in their own right and were pillars of major hunting expeditions for their tribes. They used sharp skills, dexterity, courage, and strength to survive in a harsh and challenging natural environment. This discovery not only changes our understanding of human history, but also helps break down many stereotypes about gender and the roles of women in society. Perhaps it is time for us to recognize that women have always been an indispensable part of humanity, standing side by side with men in all areas of life, right from the earliest days of civilization. Number 26. The Forgotten Palace, beneath Beijing's Olympic Village. Sometimes history is discovered in the most unexpected places, even directly beneath the foundations of modern structures. This was exactly what happened in China in 2015, as Beijing prepared to host the Winter Olympics. During site surveys for the construction of the new Olympic Village, archaeologists accidentally uncovered the remnants of a once magnificent summer palace linked to a long-forgotten dynasty in Chinese history. The archaeological site lies in Taizicheng, a small village on the outskirts of present-day Beijing. As builders carried out geological surveys and trial excavations, they were astonished to find ancient foundations, collapsed walls, and a trove of relics buried deep underground. Analysis revealed that these were the remains of a summer palace that once belonged to Emperor Wanyan Jing, a renowned ruler of the Jin dynasty, which governed northern China during the 12th and 13th centuries. This summer palace served as a retreat for rest, hunting, and important ceremonies for the emperor and his court. Located near the ancient capital of Beijing, it was once a center of power and culture during the height of the Jin dynasty. However, as time passed and history moved forward, the palace was gradually abandoned and faded from memory as subsequent dynasties rose to power. The discovery prompted city officials in Beijing to alter the layout of the Olympic Village in order to protect this valuable heritage. The site was also transformed into an archaeological park, allowing athletes and visitors the opportunity to experience Chinese culture and history within the heart of an international sporting event. Today, the remains of Taizicheng's summer palace stand not only as a testament to the splendor of a vanished dynasty, but also as a reminder that, no matter how many new structures humanity builds, countless mysteries still lie hidden beneath the layers of earth, waiting to be uncovered. Number 27. Roman-era VIP seating in Turkey. The culture of distinguishing social positions and granting privileges to the elite is hardly a modern phenomenon. It has existed throughout human history. One of the clearest pieces of evidence for this was recently uncovered in the ancient city of Pergamon, located in what is now Turkey, where archaeologists have discovered a special seating area reserved for the most important individuals of Roman times nearly 1,800 years ago. Pergamon, once one of the leading cultural and political centers of the ancient Roman Empire, was famous for its massive architectural works, from its gigantic theater to its majestic temples. However, during a recent excavation at an ancient arena in the center of the city, researchers noticed a series of special seats that were completely different from the thousands of other seats meant for ordinary spectators. These special seats were crafted from the finest stone, carefully and intricately carved, with the names of important figures or the most powerful families of the era engraved on them. According to archaeological experts, this was a VIP area reserved for the aristocracy, high-ranking officials, and the most prominent, wealthy individuals of Roman society, allowing them to enjoy entertainment events from the best and most comfortable vantage points. The discovery of the VIP seating area at Pergamon not only reveals the sharp social hierarchy of ancient Roman civilization, but also shows us that the desire for priority and special privilege has existed for a very long time in human history. Even after thousands of years, the wish to enjoy social privileges and express one's status seems never to have changed. Today, standing among the ancient ruins of Pergamon, one can easily imagine the bustling scene of thousands gathering here to cheer on gladiators or enjoy outstanding artistic performances. And right on these special seats, the elite of Roman society once enjoyed privileges that were not available to everyone. Number 28. The mysterious tunnels beneath the city of Ani, Armenia. Hidden along the borderlands of Armenia, the ancient city of Ani was once one of the brightest centers of the medieval world. The ruined remnants atop its windswept hill have long drawn the attention of archaeologists, historians, and all those who are fascinated by mysteries. Yet it was not until the late 19th century, when excavations expanded, that a truly extraordinary secret began to surface. A vast underground tunnel system lying deep beneath the earth of Ani. No one could have imagined that beneath layers of rubble and wild grass lay an enormous network containing more than 800 underground structures, from stables and monasteries to crypts and even homes where people once lived. Many rooms are connected by passageways, with tunnels stretching like a labyrinth, featuring countless corners and branches that lead to spacious halls or small, hidden chambers. On the surviving stone walls, ancient Armenian inscriptions can still be seen, proving that these structures have endured for thousands of years. The underground works of Ani are far more extensive than most ancient cities of the same era. However, to this day, the reason why people in the past invested so much effort in building such a complex subterranean system remains a major unsolved mystery. Some researchers believe these underground spaces were used as shelters during times of war or as protection against sudden invasions. Others suspect that they may have served as religious centers or networks dedicated to secret rituals of the medieval clergy. Today, although most of Ani has fallen into ruin, its underground tunnels continue to challenge archaeologists and captivate those who love to uncover the secrets of history. Number 29. Ancient Egyptian cosmetics. When people think of ancient Egyptian civilization, they often picture magnificent pyramids, mysterious statues of pharaohs, or treasures of gold and silver buried beneath the ground. However, another area that flourished in ancient Egyptian society was cosmetics, especially kohl, the familiar eyeliner used by both men and women of all social classes. Kohl was not simply a beauty product meant to accentuate the sharpness of the eyes. Scientists have discovered that the coal used by ancient Egyptians was made from a variety of minerals, including galena, lead sulfide, malachite, copper carbonate, as well as animal fats and natural vegetable oils. People in those times used coal to draw lines around their eyes, creating a striking style of makeup that remains popular even today. Beyond its cosmetic purpose, coal also held deep medical and religious significance. With Egypt's harsh climate and frequent sandstorms, applying coal around the eyes helped protect them from the bright sunlight and from harmful insects. The mineral ingredients in coal also helped prevent eye infections, a common health issue in this region. Additionally, the Egyptians believed that coal could ward off evil spirits and provide spiritual protection, so it was often used in religious rituals as well as daily activities. Small containers of coal made from stone, pottery, or precious metals have been found in ancient tombs, showing that cosmetics played an important role not just in daily life but also in Egyptian burial practices. This makes it clear that cosmetics and personal care were significant elements of ancient Egyptian culture, contributing to the refinement and mystery of this legendary civilization. Number 30. The Plain of Jars in Laos. Hidden amid the lush green plateaus of northern Laos lies a strange and mysterious land where thousands of giant stone jars have been scattered for more than 2,000 years, yet no one has ever been able to clearly explain their true origin or purpose. This enigmatic site is famously known as the Plain of Jars, one of the most important archaeological locations in Southeast Asia. These stone jars are not ordinary objects, but intricately crafted megaliths, varying in size from just a few dozen centimeters to more than 2 meters in height, and weighing from several hundred kilograms to several tons. Archaeologists who have come to study the site are consistently amazed by the remarkably sophisticated stoneworking skills of these ancient people. Experts believe that the jars may have once been used for burial rituals, since next to some of the jars, traces of human bones and funeral objects have been discovered. However, the fact that these jars are scattered over such a vast area, instead of being grouped in fixed locations, has left researchers even more puzzled. This has made their true purpose one of humanity's greatest unsolved mysteries. Some local legends even say that the jars were left behind by giants after great drinking feasts, or that they are the products of an ancient civilization with miraculous skills for building and moving gigantic stones, abilities that we still cannot explain today. These legendary tales have only added to the fascination and allure of the site for tourists and researchers alike. Despite having endured more than 2,000 years and the ravages of war, thousands of these stone jars remain standing, as if challenging our understanding of the past. Today, when visiting the Plain of Jars in Laos, people are not only able to witness a mysterious archaeological wonder, but also to feel deeply humbled by the mysteries that history continues to hide beneath the mists of time. Number 31. The Mummy with a Golden Tongue in Egypt. Among the most unusual archaeological discoveries in Egypt, few are as remarkable as the case of a mummy buried with a golden tongue. Archaeologists uncovered this artifact at the site of Taposiris Magna, an ancient cemetery located near Egypt's northern coast. The mummy, estimated to be around 2,000 years old, dates back to the period when Egypt was under Greek and Roman rule. What truly astonished the experts was the fact that the deceased's natural tongue had been replaced with a thin sheet of gold, carefully crafted to fit precisely within the mouth. According to the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities, this was not merely a decorative gesture, but reflected a profound ancient belief. The people of that time believed that the golden tongue would allow the dead to speak with the god Osiris as their soul entered the afterlife. In ancient Egyptian belief, the judgment of the soul after death played a decisive role in determining one's ultimate fate. The deceased had to answer to the gods, especially Osiris, about their deeds in life. If they could not speak, their soul would be hindered, unable to continue on to eternity. For this reason, the golden tongue was not only a symbol of communication, but also a key to open the door to a new world. The discovery of a mummy with a golden tongue at Taposiris Magna is a vivid testament to both the creativity and the power of faith in ancient Egyptian culture. Even today, such rituals continue to spark curiosity and raise unanswered questions about the spiritual world and the deep-rooted beliefs of the Egyptian people. Number 32. The Legend of Thule. In ancient times, when humanity was still unaware of the full extent of the world they lived in, many stories were told about distant, mysterious lands that lay beyond familiar boundaries. One of the most fascinating of these is the legend of Thule, a place at the very edge of the ancient world. Mentioned by the famous Roman poet Virgil, in his vividly imaginative verses, Virgil described Thule as a wild and mysterious land where, once the sun had set below the horizon, it would never rise again, leaving the land in eternal darkness. Thousands of years later, in the early 20th century, when the leaders of Nazi Germany were searching for a mythical and mysterious origin for the Aryan race they so revered, they unexpectedly recalled the old legend of Thule. They quickly became convinced that Thule was not just a mythical place, but a real location that once existed on Earth. The Nazis strongly believed that Thule was present-day Iceland, and they asserted that Iceland had once been inhabited by the ancient and superior Hyperborean people, the original and powerful ancestors of the Aryan race that Nazi ideology so proudly claimed. This strong belief in the story led Heinrich Himmler, one of the most powerful figures in Nazi Germany and the supreme leader of the SS, to organize a special expedition to Iceland in 1938. The purpose was to search for real evidence that could prove the existence of the legendary land of Thule. Himmler and his associates hoped to find ancient temples or mysterious relics related to the Aryan ancestors they admired, thereby further reinforcing the theory of a superior Aryan race and asserting their dominance to the world. However, from the moment the expedition arrived in Iceland, they encountered many difficulties as the Icelandic government was entirely unwelcoming and continually prevented them from carrying out their surveys. Even so, the Nazi expedition still claimed that they had found a mysterious cave believed to be a site where ancient Aryans once performed worship rituals. But this claim was not supported by any concrete evidence, causing people to quickly doubt the authenticity of the information. At the end of their journey in 1938, the Nazis were unable to provide any clear or credible evidence for the legendary land of Thule, and this has left Thule as an unsolved story that continues to endure. Number 33. The relics of the Buddha ashes of Siddhartha Gautama, China. Among the most intriguing archaeological discoveries in China, few have captured the attention of religious and historical scholars, as much as the finding of a porcelain box said to contain the ashes and tooth relics of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. This event took place at an ancient temple in rural China, where archaeologists unearthed an exquisite white-glazed ceramic box. Inside, the box carefully preserved fragments of ash and several small bone pieces, which people in antiquity believed belonged to the Buddha himself. Alongside the box, experts also uncovered more than 260 ancient Buddha statues buried within the temple site. All of these artifacts date back over 1,000 years. However, modern science has yet to conclusively determine whether the ashes and tooth relics inside the porcelain box truly belonged to Siddhartha Gautama. Historical records indicate that after the Buddha's passing, his ashes and relics were distributed to many locations, but whether these items are genuine remains a matter of ongoing debate. Archaeologists emphasize that the greatest value of this discovery lies not only in the authenticity of the objects, but also in the faith, reverence, and religious devotion that spread throughout ancient Asia. Even as final verification remains elusive, the discovery of a porcelain box said to contain the Buddha's ashes and tooth relics, along with hundreds of Buddha statues, has opened a window into the spiritual, artistic, and devotional life of ancient peoples. This is not only evidence of the enduring power of Buddhism in human civilization, but also a reminder that certain mysteries of history will continue to fascinate generations to come. Number 34. The Nazis and the Witch Hunt File. Hexenkartothek. Throughout the years of Nazi rule, Heinrich Himmler was known not only as the supreme leader of the powerful SS, but also as a man deeply obsessed with the most mysterious and mystical aspects of human history. One subject that captured Himmler's particular attention was the bloody history of witch trials that took place across Europe during the Middle Ages. driven by the belief that these trials were not merely ruthless court proceedings but part of a dark conspiracy to eliminate innocent Aryan women and suppress ancient German beliefs. Himmler decided to use these historical events to launch an aggressive propaganda campaign against the Catholic Church. In 1935, Himmler established a special department within the SS known as the Witch Hunt File, whose sole purpose was to collect and analyze all historical documents related to medieval witch trials across Europe. The aim was to produce convincing evidence to accuse the Catholic Church of having orchestrated campaigns to persecute and destroy innocent German women. Himmler appointed Rudolf Levin to lead this strange and controversial mission, and Levin quickly organized a team of talented researchers and historians to conduct this ambitious investigation. During their work, the Hexenkartothek team compiled thousands of records and detailed documents about witch trials that had taken place over the centuries, from small rural court cases to large-scale, violent hunts in major cities across Germany and throughout Europe. With each document they collected, Himmler and Levin directed the team to search for concrete proof that the Catholic Church had used these trials as tools to eradicate the indigenous beliefs and culture of the Aryan people. They claimed that innocent German women were falsely accused and suffered tragic deaths under the guise of religious authority. The results of this investigation were then thoroughly exploited by the Nazis in nationwide propaganda campaigns, in which the Catholic Church was depicted as a malevolent force responsible for brutal acts aimed at destroying the German people and undermining the original Aryan culture. These powerful messages spread rapidly, quickly leading many Germans to believe that the painful history of the witch trials was the clearest evidence of the deep-seated hostility the Catholic Church had long held toward the German people and their culture. However, despite the efforts of Himmler and the Hexenkartothek team, this propaganda campaign could not be sustained indefinitely. By the late 1932, Adolf Hitler himself decided to scale back the intensity of anti-church campaigns out of concern that pushing them too far would cause deep divisions within Germany, where the vast majority of people still maintained a strong faith in Catholicism and the traditional values that religion provided. Number 35. The ancient Chinese culture of Xi'an. Around 40,000 years ago, in the area of Xi'an Bay in China, prehistoric people demonstrated remarkable creativity by extracting and producing red pigment from the mineral ochre. This represents one of the earliest traces of technology and human ingenuity in ancient China, marking an important step forward in the history of prehistoric culture and technique. Archaeologists have discovered numerous stone tools at the Xi'an Bay site, along with evidence of ochre mineral use. What is especially notable is that the ancient people did not merely collect ochre from nature, they knew how to process it into red powders of varying shades and intensities. The large quantities of pigment found on the floors of ancient dwellings indicate that producing red pigment was not just an individual activity, but had become part of communal life. The production of red ochre powder was not only the foundation for prehistoric arts, such as cave painting or body decoration, but also points to a certain level of social organization and abstract thinking among these early humans. Remarkably, at the Xi'an Bay site, researchers found few signs of other technologies, such as bone tools or ornaments. This suggests that this ancient community focused its efforts on making and using red pigment as a distinctive cultural trait. It is precisely this characteristic that makes Xi'an Bay stand out in the broader picture of human development. The discovery of the ochre culture at Xi'an Bay does more than help us imagine the daily lives of prehistoric people. It also raises fascinating questions about how technology, art, and spirituality evolved together, laying the very first foundations for human civilization. Number 36. The Nazis and the study of magic. Heinrich Himmler was not only obsessed with the legendary origins of the Aryan people and ancient mystical artifacts, but he was also particularly fascinated by magical traditions and witchcraft rituals that survived in remote, far-flung lands, places he believed still preserved mysterious powers from ancient times. Among these lands, Himmler was especially interested in Karelia, a region in northern Europe that today stretches across Russia, Finland, and Sweden. Long famous for its tradition of magic, ghostly tales, and powerful witches in local folklore. In 1935, Himmler happened to read an article in a Frankfurt newspaper about Karelia's rich and mysterious culture of witchcraft. Instantly captivated by its mysterious details, he decided to organize a special expedition to this northern land to explore. Himmler hoped that, through this journey, he would have a chance to learn about and document magical rituals he believed could be used to strengthen the regime's power, as well as uncover more ancient Aryan secrets he had always sought. In the summer of 1936, the expedition organized by Himmler included several researchers, a Finnish illustrator named Ola Forsell, and a musicologist named Fritz Bose. Himmler understood that the local people of Karelia were usually reluctant to share their magical rituals with outsiders, so he specifically asked Ola Forsell to document everything in vivid sketches, while Fritz Bose was tasked with recording songs, spells, and prayers of the witches they might encounter. After a long search through small villages in Karelia, the expedition finally met a female witch who was greatly respected and feared by the local people. Her name was recorded as Mayonau, though no one knew for sure if that was her real name. From the moment she met the Nazi expedition, she declared she had foreseen their arrival in dreams and omens from the spiritual world. Though at first she was hesitant and unwilling to reveal her secrets, after much persuasion and promises from the expedition, Mayonau agreed to perform an ancient magical ritual in front of the Nazis' cameras and recording devices. The ceremony took place in an atmosphere that was both solemn and mysterious. The witch Mayonau conducted a special rite to summon ancestral spirits and spiritual forces, and she also foretold future events, all of which Himmler's researchers documented in detail. However, after the ritual ended, no one knew exactly what information the expedition obtained, as all the related records and materials quickly disappeared or were destroyed afterward. To this day, the truth behind the Nazis' magical research expedition to Karelia remains a major unanswered question, leaving people to wonder whether Himmler and his researchers actually discovered something of value, or if it was merely a journey in pursuit of the regime's strange fantasies. Number 37. The legend of the two-headed giant Captua in Patagonia. Throughout history, nearly every culture has woven legends about giants. The Greeks spoke of the mighty Titans, Norse mythology told of frost giants, China had Pangu, and the Bible mentions both Goliath and the mysterious Nephilim. Yet among all these stories, perhaps nothing is quite as strange as the tale of Captua, the two-headed giant of Patagonia. According to enduring tales, Captua was no ordinary giant. He was a twin giant with two heads atop a single massive body. At one time, it was believed that Captua stood 12 feet tall, a height almost beyond imagination. This legend captivated many in the West, especially after stories spread about European explorers who reportedly encountered unusually tall tribes in Patagonia during the 16th century. While the Tehuelche people of Patagonia were indeed taller than most Europeans of that era, the figure of 12 feet is clearly an exaggeration. Still, this did nothing to restrain the imaginations of explorers and Western storytellers who continued to spin fantastic tales of a land populated by giants. In one of the most famous versions, around the year 1673, Spanish sailors were said to have captured Captua and tied him to a ship's mast as a prisoner. However, the giant broke free, leading to a violent struggle, and was eventually killed by a spear thrust through his chest. His body, according to legend, was then taken to England and later to the United States, where it became a shocking centerpiece in bizarre exhibitions. Another variation suggests that Captua was already dead when discovered on the shore, his body pierced with spears, then mummified by Paraguayans and used in religious ceremonies. Not long after, the English captain George Bickle is said to have found and brought the two-headed corpse back to his homeland. In the end, Captua made his way into museums, sideshows, and gradually became one of those great mysteries that spark endless curiosity. Whichever version you believe, the reality is that modern scientists agree the existence of a two-headed giant is virtually impossible. To this day, the tallest confirmed person in history is Robert Wadlow, who stood 8 feet 11 inches and died young due to health problems. Cases of conjoined twins with two heads and one body are extremely rare, and most do not survive to adulthood, let alone grow into a giant warrior. The so-called Captua mummy was, in fact, once part of the circus collection of Barnum, the famous master of oddities in the 19th century. Barnum was notorious for hoaxes like the Fiji mermaid and the jackalope. At the time, there was even an art called gaff taxidermy, where animal remains were stitched together to create imaginary creatures meant to draw crowds of the curious. Today, most scientists agree that the Captua mummy is simply a product of this strange art of fabricated taxidermy, likely made purely for profit. Nevertheless, the legend of the two-headed giant in Patagonia continues to live on, remaining a part of those mysterious tales that humanity has never ceased to find fascinating. Number 38. The Forbidden Experiment, The Origins of Language. In the history of humanity, there have been experiments that haunt us not only because of their outcomes, but because of their inherently cruel nature. One such experiment was the quest to discover the origins of language, an obsession for many ancient kings, emperors, and philosophers. This experiment came to be known as the Forbidden Experiment, an extreme method where children were raised without any exposure to language whatsoever, in the hope of uncovering the original language of humankind. According to ancient records, this experiment was first known to have taken place in ancient Egypt, under the reign of Pharaoh Psamtik I. The king ordered that 2 newborn babies be handed over to a shepherd to be raised, but with strict instructions that no one should speak to them or allow them any contact with people who could talk. Pharaoh believed that if there were no outside influences, the 2 children would naturally speak the most primitive language of humanity. The experiment ended in disappointment, as all the children uttered were random sounds later interpreted by adults as an ancient word. The reality was that neither child developed a natural language, instead living in a state of silence and mental deficiency. Centuries later, the experiment was mentioned again under Emperor Frederick II of the Holy Roman Empire. Once more, infants were completely isolated from all speech and communication, with the hope that they would speak the language of Adam and Eve. But the outcome was even more tragic. All the children died from a lack of emotional and social care. In Scotland, King James IV also once sent 2 children to a deserted island with a mute woman. He hoped the children would spontaneously develop a language and eventually claimed that they spoke ancient Hebrew. However, this story lacks any reliable evidence and is most likely just a legend that was embellished over time. Later, Emperor Akbar of India also carried out a similar experiment, with the result that the children grew up unable to speak, only able to communicate through gestures or meaningless sounds. These forbidden experiments were not limited to the ancient world. In the 20th century, the world witnessed another great tragedy when tens of thousands of orphans in Romania were abandoned in orphanages, leading to psychological and emotional damage that could never be healed. What humanity has learned from these cruel experiments is that language is not an innate gift that everyone possesses from birth, but something that must be learned from the surrounding society. Number 39. The oldest shark attack victim in history, Japan. In the field of archaeology, there are discoveries that not only recount stories of life, but also expose terrifying moments of death in the distant past. One such case was uncovered by scientists in Japan, where they discovered the remains of a man who lived about 3,000 years ago, bearing nearly 800 wounds inflicted by a shark. According to researchers, this skeleton is among the clearest and earliest archaeological evidence in the world of a shark attack victim. When experts first examined the remains unearthed from the Tsukumo shell burial ground, they noticed that the man's body appeared to have been torn apart by hundreds of jagged marks, each characteristic of shark teeth. In total, scientists counted around 790 wounds, large and small, scattered across the bones, enough to conjure the image of a horrifying underwater struggle for survival. Remarkably, the man had not only suffered a ferocious attack, but also showed signs of a desperate fight for his life. Archaeologists found that his left hand had been completely severed, likely as he tried to defend himself when the shark struck. In addition, both of his legs were badly damaged, further illustrating the severity of the injuries he endured. This discovery is of enormous scientific value, as it documents the oldest known shark attack victim in human history. More importantly, it helps us understand the dangers our ancestors once faced in their harsh struggle for survival. Number 40. The Inga Stone, a prehistoric language mystery in Brazil. Deep within the heart of Brazil's Amazon rainforest, in a place where modern humans rarely set foot, stands an ancient stone known as the Inga Stone. As you approach this site, the stone emerges impressively from the untouched wilderness, standing nearly 4 meters high and stretching more than 46 meters in length. The size of the Inga Stone is actually greater than many famous monuments in Egypt, which has made it a mysterious symbol of South America for hundreds of years. But what makes the Inga Stone most remarkable is not just its massive shape, but the symbols and carvings that cover its entire surface. If you stand in front of this stone, you will see hundreds of strange characters arranged in rows and columns without any clear pattern. Some symbols resemble drawings of humans or animals, while others are geometric lines and shapes unlike anything found elsewhere in the world. Many of the carvings on the Inga Stone are reminiscent of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs with strong symbolic images, while other characters remind researchers of the script used by the Phoenicians, who once flourished on the shores of the Mediterranean thousands of years ago. Some have even noted similarities between the symbols on the Inga Stone and the mysterious petroglyphs found on Easter Island in the Pacific Ocean, a place also famous for vanished civilizations that left behind no trace. Because of the richness and diversity of these carvings, the Inga Stone has become a subject of debate among archaeologists and historians for generations. Some researchers believe that these engravings represent an ancient script dating back as far as 6,000 years, which may have once been used to convey important messages from a now lost civilization. They base this on the weathering of the carvings and the isolated location of the stone deep in the forest, strengthening the theory that this place was once a center for ancient worship or astronomy. However, there are also many who disagree, arguing that the symbols on the Inga Stone actually appeared only in the 18th century. According to these scholars, it was the local Brazilian people of that era who carved the stone as part of religious ceremonies or simply as a form of folk art passed down through generations. Alongside these ongoing debates, several notable researchers such as engineer Francisco Pavia Alemany from Spain and Austrian archaeologist Ludwig Schwenhagen have each proposed their own theories to explain this mystery. Francisco believes that the Inga Stone is actually an ancient astronomical calendar. In his view, the symbols on the rock's surface are not an ordinary language, but a system for recording the positions of the sun, moon, and planets at specific times of the year. If this hypothesis is correct, then the Inga Stone could have once helped people predict the seasons, natural phenomena, and even important astronomical events. Meanwhile, Ludwig Schwenhagen has noticed surprising similarities between the symbols on the Inga Stone and the ancient scripts of distant cultures such as Egypt or Phoenicia. This coincidence has raised the question of whether there might have been a connection or contact between ancient civilizations on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. Some modern scholars have even called the Inga Stone the Rosetta Stone of the Americas, believing that if someone could decipher these symbols, they might open the door to a whole new chapter of history for the entire continent. However, up to now, despite countless efforts and research projects spanning decades, no one has been able to provide a final answer to the true meaning of the mysterious symbols covering the surface of the Inga Stone. Archaeological teams, linguists, and mystery enthusiasts alike continue to search for clues every time they venture into the wilds of South America. Yet the Inga Stone remains there, quietly standing in the midst of untamed nature, serving as a reminder of the unsolved mysteries of human history, and as an enduring symbol of our endless curiosity about the world's unanswered secrets. Number 41. The Pit of Severed Hands at Avaris, Egypt. Pits filled with human hands were discovered near the throne in the ancient city of Avaris, the center of power for the Hyksos dynasty some 3,600 years ago. This discovery astonished archaeologists, as it was the first time that rituals once known only from ancient texts were confirmed in real life. Scientists found 4 deep pits within the grounds of the ancient palace, 2 of them located right in front of the throne room, where King Khayan, the most powerful ruler of the Hyksos, once held court. Each pit contained a single right hand, carefully and separately buried. The other 2 pits were found on the outskirts of the palace compound, this time containing a total of 14 right hands, all belonging to adults. Remarkably, not a single left hand was found, only right hands, most of them unusually large. Based on ancient Egyptian texts, researchers believe this is the first physical evidence of a ritual previously described only in hieroglyphs, never before confirmed. Egyptian warriors, after victory on the battlefield, would cut off the right hand of their enemies and present it to the king in exchange for gold or other valuable rewards. The removal of the right hand was not just to prove military achievement, but also carried symbolic meaning. It stripped the defeated of their power, strength, and honor. For archaeologists, the discovery of these hand pits represents a major breakthrough, finally confirming what had previously existed only in ancient writing. The hands, buried in silence for thousands of years, now tell a bloody story of power, war, and glory in the age of the Hyksos. It is also a reminder that behind every victory lie nameless tragedies recorded by history, sometimes only through severed body parts and rituals that the modern world can scarcely imagine. Number 42. The immortal jellyfish and the mystery of eternal life in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Deep within the vast ocean, where life unfolds in silence and countless strange creatures remain hidden in the shadows, there is a tiny species of jellyfish called Turritopsis dornii, often referred to as the immortal jellyfish. At first glance, the immortal jellyfish appears rather unremarkable, possessing only a fragile, transparent body of very small size. However, what has astonished scientists around the world is its ability to survive beyond the natural limits that render most other living things powerless. When faced with severe injury or the final stage of its life cycle, the immortal jellyfish does not succumb to death as dictated by ordinary laws, but instead triggers a special process of cellular transformation. In this process, its entire body reverts to the earliest juvenile stage, like a flower closing up before blooming once again. The jellyfish then grows back into a mature individual, and if it encounters danger or old age again, it repeats this cycle as many times as necessary. In theory, a single Turritopsis dornii jellyfish could live forever, provided it is not killed by outside factors such as disease or natural predators. The jellyfish's ability to turn back the clock has sparked much debate in the scientific community about the boundaries of life and the secrets of immortality that humanity has always yearned for since ancient times. Interestingly, the idea of eternal life appears very early in human history, specifically in the Epic of Gilgamesh, a renowned work that originated in the land of Sumer nearly 5,000 years ago. The epic tells of Gilgamesh, the mighty king of Uruk, who, after witnessing the death of his closest friend, becomes haunted by the reality of mortality and develops an obsession with the dream of everlasting life. On his quest to find the secret of immortality, Gilgamesh endures countless hardships before meeting Utnapishtim, the only human granted immortality by the gods after surviving the legendary Great Flood. Utnapishtim not only recounts for Gilgamesh the painful memories of mankind, but also tells him of a mysterious plant lying deep beneath the sea, described as soft and moving like a living creature. According to the epic, this plant is the key to rejuvenation and longevity. Gilgamesh exerts all his strength to dive into the deep, lightless waters in search of this plant. He ultimately succeeds in retrieving it, but on his return to land, a snake secretly steals the precious item, and thus the secret of immortality slips from human grasp once again. Gilgamesh's journey ends with his acceptance that the fate of humanity is to live and die as an inevitable part of nature. Even though he came so close to the boundary between mortals and the divine, the big question is, how did the Sumerians 5,000 years ago conceive of an image of an undersea plant capable of rejuvenation and immortality, an image strikingly similar to the immortal jellyfish that modern science has only recently discovered? Some say it is merely a coincidence or a subtle metaphor for the timeless human longing for eternal life. Yet others suggest that these ancient records show that people of the past observed nature with extraordinary care, and sometimes they discovered secrets that humanity would only begin to unravel thousands of years later. Whatever the truth may be, the uncanny connection between the immortal jellyfish in the ocean and the image of immortality in the Epic of Gilgamesh remains a testament to the boundless imagination of humanity and the enduring desire to unlock the mystery of eternal life throughout history. Number 43. The Liber Linteus manuscript. an Etruscan mystery. In the world of archaeology, few artifacts are as intriguing and enigmatic as the Liber Linteus, the longest surviving Etruscan manuscript known to exist. Written in the 3rd century BCE, this text belonged to the Etruscan civilization, a once flourishing culture in what is now Italy, long before the Romans came to dominate Europe. What makes the Liber Linteus especially remarkable is that it was not discovered in an ancient library or grand tomb, but emerged in a most unexpected and unusual form. In 1848, in the city of Zagreb, Croatia, researchers purchased an Egyptian mummy from Alexandria. After bringing it back to the local archaeological museum, they noticed that the mummy was wrapped in linen, inscribed with mysterious writing that initially went unrecognized. It was only upon closer inspection that experts realized the mummy's wrappings were, in fact, an ancient manuscript written in the Etruscan language, a language that, to this day, remains largely undeciphered. The text was named the Liber Linteus, or the Linen Book. It is one of the very few surviving documents in Etruscan, a language lost with the decline of its civilization thousands of years ago. Linguists believe that, based on the portions already translated, the Liber Linteus appears to be some kind of ritual calendar. The manuscript likely records festivals, important religious ceremonies, and rules for worship in Etruscan society. Yet, the majority of its content remains beyond our ability to understand, as so much about the Etruscan language is still a mystery. The existence of the Liber Linteus offers hope to researchers seeking to learn more about the culture, religion, and society of the Etruscans. It is also a remarkable story of an ancient manuscript's journey from Mediterranean burial rites to becoming mummy wrappings in Egypt and finally resting in a European museum. To this day, the Liber Linteus remains one of archaeology's greatest mysteries, reminding us of the shadows that still linger in the history of humankind. Number 44. The survival of birds after the asteroid catastrophe. About 66 million years ago, one of the greatest events ever to occur on Earth took place when a massive asteroid collided with what is now the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. The destructive power of the impact swiftly wiped out most life on the planet, including the famous dinosaurs that had dominated every corner of the natural world for millions of years. However, what not everyone realizes is that a handful of small bird species managed to survive that mass extinction, and from them descended all the modern birds we see today. Scientists have spent many years studying the remaining fossil evidence, and they have discovered that not all birds were able to survive the brutal devastation caused by the asteroid impact. Most bird species of that era lived and nested in trees, but ancient forests around the globe were incinerated by intense wildfires that raged after dust and ash spread throughout the atmosphere. Only those small birds that lived and nested close to the ground managed to persist, making use of crevices, underbrush, or small burrows to shelter themselves from the extreme heat and the increasingly toxic environment. This group of ground-dwelling birds, though very small in number compared to the total population, possessed remarkable adaptability. They were able to move quickly, search for food on the ground, and survive through the prolonged period of darkness and cold that enveloped the Earth for many years. As conditions gradually improved, these birds began to occupy new habitats and evolved into an incredible diversity of forms and ways of life. Over tens of millions of years, it was from this small group that all modern bird species arose, from tiny sparrows to powerful eagles and seabirds soaring across the oceans. This discovery has not only helped scientists better understand the evolutionary history of birds, but it also serves as a reminder of the extraordinary resilience and adaptability of life on Earth. Even in the face of seemingly insurmountable catastrophes, nature always finds a way to revive and flourish, often starting from the most fragile beginnings. Number 45. Satanic symbols at Oia Antica, Italy, near the city of Rome. An archaeological team was conducting excavations at the ruins of an ancient Roman house in Oia Antica. When winter ended, they returned to the site after a period of closure and immediately sensed that something unusual was happening there. As they inspected the ancient stone walls, archaeologists discovered a series of strange drawings and symbols that did not belong to the Roman era. What concerned the experts most were numerous satanic symbols, with the number 666 prominently carved into the ancient stones. In addition, feathers were scattered across the ground, along with the remnants of extinguished campfires. These signs indicated that someone had been using the area for mysterious nighttime rituals, taking advantage of the absence of site supervision. After carrying out an investigation, the archaeologists confirmed that these symbols were not part of the original ancient remains, but were in fact the work of modern-day vandals, likely members of satanic groups. It is probable that, during the closure of the site, certain individuals slipped in to perform extreme religious rites, or simply to attract attention by defacing the ruins and lighting fires in the midst of this historic location. Regardless of the motivation, such acts have had a significant negative impact on the archaeological and historical value of the site. This incident has only reinforced the experts' conviction about the importance of protecting ancient monuments from vandalism and the vital role of community awareness in preserving our shared human heritage. While the satanic symbols and strange markings do not belong to the distant past, they serve as a reminder that every piece of historical heritage is vulnerable if it is not cared for and safeguarded. Number 46. Sacred chickens in ancient England. When thinking of animals closely linked to England's history, many people immediately picture horses, cattle, or hunting dogs. Yet, modern archaeology has revealed a surprising truth. The chickens so familiar in rural life today once held an exceptionally special place in the culture and beliefs of ancient Britain. For centuries, archaeologists have continuously uncovered chicken skeletons buried underground at Iron Age, Roman, and even Saxon sites throughout England. What is surprising is that most of these skeletons are remarkably intact, showing no signs of slaughter or food preparation. Scientific analysis indicates that most of these chickens lived for 3, even 4 years, far longer than modern chickens, which are usually kept for only a few months before being used for meat. Experts believe that ancient Britons did not raise chickens primarily for their meat or eggs, as most other civilizations did. Instead, chickens were seen as sacred beings, possessing spiritual value and deeply intertwined with religious practices, traditions, and community life. In sacrificial rituals, chickens were used to pray for good harvests, protect health, ward off bad luck, or even as offerings to local deities. In addition, carefully selected roosters served as fighting cocks in competitions, not only as entertainment but as symbols of divine power and the owner's fortune. Many chicken burials at archaeological sites were conducted with great care, sometimes with a sense of ceremony comparable to human graves. Chickens were often laid on their side, wings folded neatly, with the entire skeleton left undisturbed. In some special cases, chickens were even buried with small objects like necklaces, stones, or pottery fragments, showing that they were truly respected and treated as members of the community. Experts suggest that the belief in the chicken's spiritual power may have originated from its ability to call the sun each morning, symbolizing new beginnings and the continuity of life. Moreover, the crowing of a rooster at dawn was thought to warn away evil spirits, bringing peace and protection to the entire village. Beyond this, chickens were also symbols of social status. Raising beautiful, healthy birds or owning famous fighting cocks could bring respect and prestige to their owners. Some traditional festivals included cockfighting tournaments, where the victorious bird and its owner were honored by the whole community. All these discoveries have completely changed previous assumptions about the role of chickens in English history. For the ancients, chickens were not merely livestock for food, but sacred creatures, bridges between the human world and the divine, symbols of luck, vitality, and communal strength. As their skeletons rest beneath the earth, they continue to tell the story of a world where every creature carried meanings far beyond what we see in daily life. Number 47. The oldest stone tools in Greece. In a coal mine in southern Greece, archaeologists have made a discovery that completely changes our understanding of human history in Europe. While probing deep underground layers, they found simple, handcrafted stone tools dating back as far as 700,000 years. This finding not only surprised researchers, but also pushed the archaeological timeline of Greece back by 250,000 years compared to any previous evidence ever recorded. These stone tools include sharp-edged stone fragments, shaped enough to be used for cutting animal meat or chopping wild plants. Although they appear very crude and primitive, their significance is enormous, as they indicate that, at that time, early humans already lived and hunted on what is now Greek soil. Through analysis, scientists believe that the creators of these tools could have been Homo antecessor, an ancient human branch regarded as a common ancestor of both Neanderthals and modern humans. Notably, these stone tools were found alongside fossilized bones of extinct animals such as ancient elephants, giant deer, and hippopotamuses, showing that the habitat then was entirely different from today, with many large animals roaming the grasslands and riverbanks. This discovery not only expands our knowledge of the first human footprints in Greece, but also highlights the widespread dispersal of ancient human groups across the European continent. From these small stones crafted hundreds of thousands of years ago, scientists gain a clearer picture of a still murky period of history, when our ancestors already knew how to use tools to survive, hunt, and adapt to the harsh environment of prehistory. Number 48. The world's oldest ritual in Botswana. When we think of human history, we often picture the ancient civilizations of Egypt, Mesopotamia, or China, with their magnificent archaeological legacies. Yet one discovery that has completely reshaped our understanding of the origins of human spirituality was made in a place seemingly wild and remote. The Kalahari Desert of Botswana, Africa. Archaeologist Sheila Coulson from the University of Oslo made a remarkable discovery in a secluded cave, nestled among mountains known by locals as the Mountains of the Gods. Inside the cave, her research team uncovered a massive rock carved in the shape of a snake's head, a creature long associated with power, rebirth, and mystery in many ancient cultures. Notably, it was not only the shape of the rock, but also the way natural light played across its surface that made the stone appear to move, enhancing the mystical aura of the site. Other artifacts found in and around the cave, including spearheads, stone tools, and small objects, were all dated to as far back as 70,000 years ago. Scientists determined that these items were used in religious rituals, making them far older than any previously known ceremonial sites, predating the famous archaeological remains of Europe and Asia by as much as 30,000 years. The discoveries in the Botswana cave have not only changed our understanding of when humans began to practice religious rituals, but also revealed that our ancestors were gathering for communal activities to express faith and reverence for supernatural forces from the very dawn of time. The carving of the snake's head, the careful placement of ritual objects, and the holding of sacred ceremonies in this cave all show that, even at the very beginning of history, humans had a deep need to search for meaning, connect with the universe, and pay homage to powers beyond their understanding. Today, as archaeologists continue to investigate the traces left behind in Botswana, each new find sheds more light on the spiritual journey of humankind. The story of the snake-headed rock and the world's oldest known ritual reminds us that belief and spirituality are not just products of civilization, but have been an inseparable part of human nature since the very beginning. Number 49. The Potomsky Crater, Pomsky Crater, Siberia. Deep within the remote taiga forests of Siberia, Russia, the Potomsky Crater stands as one of the strangest mysteries ever recorded by modern science. The crater was first discovered in 1949 by a young geologist named Vadim Kolpakov during a geological survey. When he stumbled upon this structure, the entire landscape around it appeared completely unlike anything he had ever seen before. The Potomsky Crater rises like a gigantic cone, standing over 200 meters above the ground, with a perfectly round depression at its summit giving the impression of a newly formed volcanic crater. However, as researchers began to approach and conduct field studies, they realized that both the shape and composition of the crater did not resemble any known volcano or typical meteorite crater. The true age of the Potomsky Crater remains a matter of debate. Some scientists believe it was formed around 2,000 years ago, while other analyses suggest it could be either much younger or significantly older. What makes the mystery even harder to explain is that the surrounding trees all display unusual growth patterns. When scientists cut across the trunks to examine the growth rings, they observed that at a certain period in the past, the trees experienced an intense growth spurt for several decades, followed by a sudden decline, a phenomenon usually only seen in areas affected by radiation. However, After repeated tests, researchers have found no evidence of any modern radioactive explosion or lingering radioactive material in the area. This has led to a host of hypotheses, including suggestions that the Potomsky crater may actually be the landing site of an unidentified flying object UFO from ancient times, or perhaps even the remnant of a prehistoric nuclear explosion left by long-lost civilizations with powers beyond our imagination. After more than 70 years, the mystery of the Potomsky crater still has no definitive answer. Whether it is the result of a bizarre natural event or the trace of a much greater mystery, the Potomsky crater continues to rest silently in the Siberian wilderness, forever sparking the curiosity of those eager to explore the outermost boundaries of the natural world and human history. Number 50. The London Beer Flood, a strange tragedy in an ancient city. On an October afternoon in 1814, the people of London witnessed an event unlike anything the city had ever seen. At that time, the Horseshoe Brewery was bustling with activity, its enormous wooden vats filled to the brim with fermenting porter. No one could have imagined that, in the blink of an eye, the ordinary order of things would be completely overturned. The incident began when one of the brewery's largest tanks suddenly burst open after its iron hoop, weakened by rot, gave way. In a matter of seconds, over 300,000 litres of porter surged forth like a giant wave. The force of the liquid was so great that it smashed through solid brick walls, swept away everything in its path, and created a flood that rushed down rotten wooden staircases. The tragedy unfolded with such speed that most victims had no chance to escape. There were mothers holding their young children, elderly people, and children gathered around candlelight, all swept away under the boiling wave of beer. In one house, an entire family was found drowned while preparing for a funeral. Some victims were only a hand's breadth from safety, yet still could not escape the flood. After the torrent subsided, the scene that emerged left all of London in stunned silence. Collapsed houses with the heavy stench of beer lingering in the air, bodies floating on the surface of the water, and basements flattened by the tremendous pressure. While rescue teams struggled to search for victims and clear away the wreckage, public opinion in London became divided over this rare disaster. Many mourned the fate of the unfortunate poor, while others could not help but feel a sense of bitterness and helplessness at the harsh realities of life. In the end, the London beer flood of 1814 is remembered not just as a tragic anecdote, but as a symbol of the fragility of human existence in the face of nature's power and the unpredictable upheavals of industrial society. It also stands as a reminder of the unforeseeable consequences of carelessness and disregard for workplace safety during the early days of the Industrial Revolution. Even today, the story of the beer flood remains a unique scar in the flow of London's history, a place where pain and laughter, alcohol and tears have blended together to create a memory not easily forgotten, even by those who have never set foot in this ancient city. Number 51. The Usalo Twin Watchtowers in the Argonne Gorge. Set amid the wild and rugged Cheta region, the Argonne Gorge has long been a crossroads of cultures and a silent witness to countless chapters of history. For centuries, this gorge served as a vital passage for caravans, merchants, and nomadic tribes journeying through the landscape. The area contains about 600 archaeological sites, including ancient caves, ancestral tombs from the 10th century, cave burials, stone crypts, and the ruins of crumbled castle complexes. This land was once home to indigenous tribes who used the steep cliffs and dense forests for shelter and survival against harsh natural conditions. What truly sets the Argonne Gorge apart from other regions is its system of ancient watchtowers, most famously, the Usalo Twin Towers. These two imposing towers stand at a crucial position, guarding the only accessible route through the gorge. Typically built atop high peaks or natural stone bridges, the towers stand out dramatically against the majestic backdrop of Cheta. Known to the ancients as Vina Towers, each one rises between 9 and 23 meters, equivalent to about 3 to 7 stories of a modern building. Constructed entirely from solid stone, with massive blocks stacked using exceptionally sturdy techniques, the Vina Towers have withstood the test of thousands of years. Some Vina Towers served as dwellings for families or small communities, especially in villages such as Urs and Nikoi. These towers featured multiple levels, windows, and staircases, providing for daily living as well as defense against external threats. Many others functioned as military outposts or watchtowers, strategically positioned to control roads, trails, and mountain passes. This allowed the sentinels to keep a close eye on all movement and quickly alert the community to any danger, whether from invaders or bandits. The Vina Towers were not only fortresses but also symbols of communal power and strength. The Usalo twin watchtowers, in particular known locally as the Great Houses Guarding the Gorge, are nearly 900 years old, though the oldest Vina towers in the region may date back more than 2,000 years. The two Usalo towers are carved directly from the solid rock of the gorge, making them an inseparable part of the landscape. Their unique design ensures that no one can pass through the Argon Gorge without crossing or being seen by these massive towers. Whether merchants, travelers, or armies passed by, they were always aware that their every move was monitored and tightly controlled by the watchtowers above. Beyond their military value, the Vina Towers reflect the ingenuity and craftsmanship of ancient architects and builders. Constructing nearly 20-meter-high stone towers atop mountains in such challenging conditions is clear evidence of their understanding of materials, engineering techniques, and labor organization. Remarkably, after centuries of weather, rain, storms, and even earthquakes, many of these towers still stand firm, often showing little damage. Today, visitors to the Cheta region are not only amazed by the natural beauty of the Argon Gorge, but also sense the enduring spirit and resilience of the communities that once thrived here. The Usalo watchtowers, together with hundreds of other Vina towers, are more than just architectural relics. They are emblems of a deep-seated determination to defend the homeland, as well as symbols of human adaptability and limitless creativity throughout history. They remind us that, in every era, intelligence and courage can create monuments that endure through the ages. Number 52. The Pre-Human Technology Hypothesis. Pre-Human Scientists. In recent years, some scientists at NASA have raised a bold and challenging question that pushes against the traditional understanding of humanity's past. They suggest that there may once have existed an advanced technological civilization on Earth, long before humans ever appeared. This hypothesis is based on the idea that, during the hundreds of millions of years of our planet's history, there could have been species that developed intelligence, technology, and complex societies, only to vanish entirely without leaving behind easily recognizable traces. These scientists point out that modern humans have built industrial society for only about the last 300 years, while Earth itself has existed for hundreds of millions of years, enduring countless changes in geology, climate, and life. If there truly was a technological civilization predating humanity, all remnants of their materials, structures, or devices could have been erased by time, natural decay, geological events, or buried deep beneath the Earth's crust. So far, scientists have not found any conclusive evidence to support the existence of such a pre-human civilization. There are no archaeological remains, no machines or tools, and no signs of advanced technology attributed to any prehistoric species other than humans. Nevertheless, this idea remains a topic that stimulates curiosity and debate within the scientific community. It forces us to question the limits of our current knowledge and to consider what might have been lost to the depths of the Earth's ancient past. Even though it remains only a hypothesis, the concept of pre-human civilizations reminds us that the history of this planet still holds countless unsolved mysteries, and that there may always be stories buried beneath the dust of time, waiting to be discovered. Stone Age weaving techniques, Çatalhöyük, Turkey. When we think of the Stone Age, most people imagine a primitive world where humans survived mainly by hunting and gathering, with little in the way of advanced craftsmanship. Yet archaeological discoveries at the site of Çatalhöyük in Turkey have completely transformed this perspective. Here, scientists have uncovered traces of weaving that date back as much as 8,500 years, an astonishing number by any standard. According to experts, nearly 9,000 years ago, the people of Çatalhöyük, the largest city of the Neolithic period, had already learned to use plant fibers to weave textiles. Before these discoveries, researchers believed that ancient people mainly used wool or flax for clothing. since both materials are relatively easy to find and process. However, the textiles unearthed at Catalhoyuk were actually woven from bast fibers, plant fibers taken from the bark of trees such as oak or other woody plants. While these fibers were typically used for making rope or cordage, the prehistoric inhabitants of Catalhoyuk developed the technique of transforming tree bark fibers into clothing and everyday items. Extracting fibers from tree bark, processing them, spinning them into thread, and then weaving them into fabric required a level of knowledge and skill far more sophisticated than previously imagined for Stone Age humans. This discovery demonstrates that, even in the distant past, our ancestors possessed remarkable creativity and scientific understanding applied to daily life. They not only crafted tools and built shelters, but also found ways to utilize natural resources to produce the essentials they needed. Looking at the fragments of cloth that have survived for thousands of years at Catalhoyuk, we can truly appreciate the dexterity, perseverance, and boundless imagination of the ancients. These innovations laid the groundwork for the textile industry that would come later, and they help us better understand the remarkable progress of human civilization during prehistoric times. Number 54. The ancient winemaking industry in Israel. In the field of modern archaeology, one of the most striking discoveries is the recently unearthed ancient winemaking complex at the city of Yavne, Israel. This site dates back over 1,500 years to the Byzantine period and stands as clear evidence of the remarkable development of winemaking in the ancient Mediterranean world. Archaeologists have found 5 large grape-pressing vats, numerous storage rooms, and kilns used for producing the ceramic jars needed to store and transport the wine. In addition, tens of thousands of fragments from amphorae, jars, and wine vessels have been excavated, attesting to the immense scale of production. Based on calculations and research, experts estimate that this facility could have produced up to 2 million liters of wine each year, an extraordinary figure, far exceeding that of many modern wineries. What is even more remarkable is that the wine produced at Yavne was not just for local consumption, but was exported across the Mediterranean. This wine, known as Gaza wine, was famous for its light flavor and pale color, and was especially favored by the wealthy and royal classes. Amphorae bearing the names Gaza or Ashkelon have been found throughout the Mediterranean world, from Egypt and Greece to Italy, and even farther afield. This discovery not only showcases the skills and knowledge of ancient Israelite winemakers, but also reflects the vital importance of winemaking to the economy and social life of the time. Wine was not merely a beverage, it was a nutritional staple, often replacing water, which was frequently contaminated in antiquity. Thanks to large-scale production and export systems like the one at Yavne, Israel's wine played a key role in trade, festivals, and the spiritual life of ancient Mediterranean civilizations. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery. If you enjoy mysterious stories and want to learn more about the world around you, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. Don't hesitate to share your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section below. Your feedback is always an inspiration for us to explore new topics. We look forward to seeing you in our next adventure.